Hello and welcome to Flourish After 50, a podcast for women navigating change with experts and real stories to help you create a life that feels more true, more intentional and more you. Today's episode is a little different. It begins with a letter. You're going to hear Kerry Pietrobon read a letter called Dear Me, You Were Never the Problem. It's a letter she wrote to her younger self about growing up in a bigger body, falling in love with fashion and slowly reclaiming her place in the world. I first heard Kerry read this piece at a Generation Women storytelling event in Melbourne. These events are intergenerational nights where 6 women, one from each decade, from their 20s through to their 70s, share true stories on a theme. If you're not familiar with Generation Women, I'll include a link in the show notes. I really encourage you to check it out. It's fabulous to hear stories so diverse and hung together around this common theme. So go to one of the monthly events and experience it for yourself. I heard Kerry talk at the May event in Melbourne this year, where the theme was a letter to my younger or older self, and she represented Team 50s. On the night, I was completely blown away by her letter and by another one that you'll hear in a later episode. But today, you'll hear exactly what I heard that night as Kerry reads her letter. It's so powerful. And then the two of us get into a conversation about the messages in her story and what she wants you to know from those and what they mean in her life now. What I love about this conversation is that Kerry isn't someone who's got everything tied up in a neat bow. She's a woman in her late 50s, navigating the tough and messy waters of change while she grieves the end of her fashion brand. But at the same time, she's stepping into visibility and still wrestling with self-doubt, but learning to choose herself. In her story, you'll hear both the good and the difficult and the very real ways she's working out what unapologetically me actually means in practice. So settle in. Here's Kerry reading her letter.
Dear me, you were never the problem. This is a letter to the girl I used to be. Dear younger Kerry, I know it's hard moving through the world in a body people think they understand before they know you. To enter a classroom and feel your body arrive before you do. Before you even speak, they have already decided you are slower, less capable, less desirable. And slowly you start to see yourself through their eyes. So you get louder, funnier. You make the jokes first because the world seems more comfortable with a fat girl who is funny than one who dares to believe she deserves fashion, beauty, softness, desire, and possibility. You learn to see yourself as too big, too much, as if taking up space is something you need to apologize for. And that feeling of being not quite right stays with you for years. But dear younger Kerry, I need you to hear this. You have never been the problem. And your body was never the problem. At 14, your friends are discovering young, fun fashion stores. You are led into stores where your mum shops. Not because that's your style, but because that's where your size is. Under those fluorescent change room lights, you begin to believe fashion, fun, and girlhood are not meant for a body like yours, which cuts deep because you love the glorious theatre of fashion. You were left out of the picture when all you ache for is your own version of Debbie Harry cool, Annie Lennox sharpness, and Prince-level confidence. You want to stand out for your style, not because of your size. Instead, you are offered clothes made to hide you, not celebrate you. You soon realise the problem is not just the shops. It's everywhere. Magazines, movies, TV, advertising, and fashion. Even the people closest to you are living inside the same narrative. They love you, but they have also been taught the same narrow rules. Your young years, here the waist size becomes something to fix, hide, manage, or apologise for. And those stories become ingrained in you. But the truth is, The sizing is the problem. The stores are the problem. The lack of imagination and narrow ideas of beauty are the problem. The world has convinced you that you are too much, yet offers you less. But you were never too much. You are a girl with a big love of fashion, style, and possibility, trying to find herself in a world that has not yet made enough room for her. And all the while, you are quietly wondering, who gets to be seen? Who gets to be called worthy? Who made these bullshit rules? I mean, who did? Thank fuck. You do not give up on fashion. You learn to sew, and that changes everything. Clothes become something you can shape, alter, and reimagine. Commercial patterns become yours. Oversized pieces get imagination, attitude, and a little bit of Kerry. And then people notice, not your size, your outfits. You hear things like, you look fabulous. I love your outfit. For the first time, your style enters the room before your body does. You are seen in the way you always wanted to be seen. Creative, stylish, a woman with a point of view. That need to wear clothes you actually love becomes a skill. A survival tactic becomes a craft. At 30, it takes you to TAFE, where instinct becomes pattern making, fit, and form, and you learn that fashion is never just about how something looks. It is about how it makes someone feel in their own body. And one day, that fire becomes a fashion brand called Harlow, a brand for women who had been shown repeatedly that fashion was not for them, built with fashion at the forefront regardless of size. Fashion first, plus size second. When you start Harlow, something shifts. You step in front of the camera, style the clothes, make the videos, and become the face of the brand. At first, you tell yourself, I'm just wearing my brand. But really, Harlow is helping you come back to yourself. And your beautiful Harlow community cheers you on, trusts you, and lets you be seen. They will never know how much they help you see yourself again, because through Harlow, you help thousands of women find fashion that not only fits, but also sees them. Clothes that make them feel strong, sexy, creative, powerful, worthy of being seen. Clothes that remind them that their bodies were never the problem either. One customer will share, Harlow showed me my body was worth designing for. And those words will stay with you, because that is what you needed too. Not changed first, not hidden first, designed for, considered, valued as you are. Harlow closing will not be the end of this story. At 56, you sign up for your first runway show. And there you will be, a 56-year-old fat woman in fashion, walking a runway with women of all ages, shapes, and sizes. Not hidden, not squeezed into the background, not trying to make yourself smaller. And the audience will cheer. And for once, you will let yourself feel seen, celebrated, and unapologetic. After the event, a woman will tell you something you will never forget. She will tell you she was applauding you as you walked, and then something shifted. She suddenly realized she looks like me. And if she could see you as powerful, joyful, and worthy of celebration, why couldn't she offer that same applause to herself? That moment floors you, because that is what visibility does. One person being seen can help another feel possible too. It's not just about being looked at. It's about being witnessed. And when the photos start arriving, at first, that old voice still wants to judge. But slowly, photo by photo, you see joy, power, softness, and strength. Not a before photo, not a problem to solve. You living your life. And so it continues. One day you post photos of yourself in a swimsuit, publicly, well, on Instagram. Not as a body confidence performance, just as you, living, snorkeling, no longer editing yourself out of the frame, choosing life in this body as the woman you are. And just last week, at 57, you walk the runway again. Someone tells you that you were their favourite model this year and last. Another joke is that they want to take you home in their bag just to keep your confidence close. And this time you let it land. Not as proof of your value, not because you finally became acceptable, because you now know. The world does not get the final say in how you see yourself. You get to decide what you take on. You get to decide what you leave behind. And this time, you choose you. So dear younger Kerry, keep going. Keep taking up space. Follow what lights you up. If it makes you smile, follow it. If it makes you sparkle, trust it. If it makes you feel more you, do not talk yourself out of it. Your superpower is not becoming someone else. Your superpower is that you are you, absolutely, fabulously, unapologetically you. And to end, a little postscript to my older self. Dear older Kerry, please remember this. Do not forget this feeling. Keep showing up. Keep taking up space. Keep choosing yourself, not because you need to prove anything, not to anyone, not ever, but because this is your one life and you are the only one with the power to live it fully.
It's so powerful. I've been having a few tears, which is exactly how I felt the first time that I heard you read that. It's so moving. It's so powerful. Thank you for reading it. What's it like for you to hear your words again today?
As I rehearsed for the Generation Woman event, I think I got a lot of the tears out. You would have heard breaking of my voice. And I think the fact is that when I say it, I do feel like I'm speaking to her rather than like I'm keeping it together so she feels like she's going to be okay. I have to say that after I read at Generation Women, about a few days later, and it will probably happen again today, it just kept hitting me that, you know, the things that you just kept going past because you had to were real. They weren't make-believe. You weren't making up that things were like this. This is how the world is.
So there's something there then about the opportunity in this letter to name the experiences that you had and everything that was wrong with the world that you were living in.
Because I can only speak for myself, but I know a lot of the time it was, even if somebody mentioned something to me, you know, about how it would be like, no, I'm fine. I just kept moving on. So I think it gave me a chance to actually acknowledge rather than just going, she'll be right, put that aside. She'll be right, put it aside. So, and it's probably needs to be done.
Yeah. I think the emotion for me came in two places. And one was as you were describing the rise of Kerry into the unapologetic phase, I was just like, I could just feel all of that. And then really hit with the emotion when you described your much younger self, or the message, sorry, that you were wanted to give to your much younger self. So I can imagine in the writing process, it's really emotional. So it's really powerful because it traces your journey to feeling like you're coming back in or coming into yourself. When you look back on that, was there a time when you felt things changed, or was it a gradual experience of change that you went through?
I think it's gradual and it's still evolving because, you know, there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to unlearn. But what happens now is if I feel uncomfortable or I ever feel like I don't like something or my old feelings come up, I move past them a lot quicker than I used to. And that's a win. You know, it's not every day, but every now and again it comes back, you know, and I do doubt myself occasionally. Am I strong enough? Or I get a bit of fear to stand in myself because it feels wrong to some degree in your gut because you've been pushing against it the other way for so long. So it's about relearning what those feelings that come up mean, not what they meant before. Did that make sense? Like before it was like, no, don't talk, like run away from this, run away from this, run away from this. Now it's more like, no, stand up in it. You need to push past this because this is what you want to be,
So it's allowing yourself the space to notice what's going on, knowing that you'll move out of that and move past it.
And I think that when you say, was it a gradual change? It was, but during my challenging perimenopausal part of my life and 2020 that, we wished it hadn't happened and all that sort of things that came in, there was so much going on that I was realizing that, things had to change about what I was doing. It wasn't necessarily about the way I looked or about anything like that. It was like, I need to actually believe that I'm enough rather than just talking about the fact that we are all enough. When I would speak to my customers, for example, where like, you're enough. And I was telling myself at the same time, I need to not be afraid of living this, I need to stop making myself smaller. And that sounds almost contradictory because I'm a big personality, but I still make it palatable.
So in the letter, you say that starting Harlow was a turning point for you as well. And so can you explain to people listening who haven't heard of Harlow what it was and what you did?
My husband and I co-founded a Australian-made women's wear label for sizes 12 to 26. When I first started the brand, I thought I was going to be some nameless brand. Like nobody would know my name, nobody would know my husband's name, nobody would know anything about us. We were just going to be a brand name, the likes of saying things like Witchery, Country Road, things like that. And I think the fact that you're answering on social media to people that are making comments, so you're becoming more connected with people. And then I started showing up in front of the camera because we were finding it very hard to get professional models for our photo shoots that were not the standard size 16, which is what you can actually book at that stage. So this was like 15 years ago. So, and then I went, no, we need to show it on different bodies and I need to start showing it on myself. So, and that's when I realized that, sharing my journey was actually helping others. And a lot of the time I was really awkward getting in front of the camera and they'd say, oh, you look great. And they gave me the courage to just keep going and not be embarrassed about putting myself forward, because often in the back of my head, it was like, well, who does she think she is? But I wasn't putting myself face forward as myself. I was putting myself face forward as Kerry, who wears Harlow and needs Harlow. So I think that made it easier, and that's how Harlow changed because of the way the customer would communicate with us all the way through.
How many years did you have Harlow?
So we were open for 13, yeah.
Yeah, it's a long time. And it sounds as though when you described it in the letter and just then, it felt like this community of people. Is that how it was for you?
It absolutely was. And, we would get DMs, we would get emails, the reviews we would get of thank you, like I feel great. People would send in photos of us in Instagram, and we weren't, unless we got permission, we would never share anybody's photo. And they didn't as a rule, but they would just tell us, and that was so fantastic. And even all the way through when we had hard times due to the way the world turned upside down. It's like the way they supported us and would come back and say, like, you're doing great, let's keep doing these things. And then when we actually did say that we were closing, which was, we announced it in April, and then we said we were going on pause, and we actually closed, I think the last day was the end of August, because we wanted them to have time to pick up last things that they might want, realize that could be the last time they can get this piece and all that sort of stuff. And the outpouring of, I was in tears like for days sometimes when I'd read them. And that's what was important. It wasn't what we made. It was what we made.
Together. Yeah, that's really powerful. And so when you think back on that time from the Kerry who started that business to how you emerged, what was the most significant difference, do you think?
I think the significant difference was realizing my passion. Like I did once when I was in Harlow, I realized that changing the way women felt about themselves or helping them, because it's a tool that we've given them, was something I never expected. And it was like, we need more of this because, and that doesn't matter what size you are. We all need this. So whether you're a female, whether you're a male, we all need to be shown that we're all good the way we are. And I think that realizing that that's the story I wanted to tell, that's what I'm trying to do in other ways, even though I don't have Harlow. So when I help another plus size brand with their fit or their sizing, or talking to their team to how to speak to customers and make them feel connected and all that sort of stuff, it's just about helping them to help the customer who deserves more choices, deserves to feel good going into a store, deserves all of that. So if I can find any way to increase the amount of choice and good customer service and good product for the women out there that I used to help with Harlow, that we used to help with Harlow, that's what I'm trying to do. So I'm trying to work that out.
So continuing with that really strong sense of purpose, offering benefit to the women that you've been working with all this time and the women that you most want to, or people that you most want to have an impact on. How much do you think being a woman in your 50s and now 56, did you say?
I'm 57 now.
57?
Yeah, I'll be 58 soon.
Okay. What's age had to do with your transformation? That's the question I want to ask.
When I've heard all my life that you come into yourself at 50, it's true. And I can't tell you why. Like, it literally is like, whether it's hormonal, I don't know. But I'm saying I almost feel like I've shrugged off a coat that I was wearing. I'm big enough to suffer any consequence. And maybe it's just realizing that you may be running out of time. And if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. I think there's a little bit of that in there. It's like, what are you waiting for? Like, stop wishing, start doing. And I do also think that it's just, it just something just happens. But I do actually think, now that I've said that out loud to you, is that idea of, time literally every day. It's not running out, but you're getting closer to where, everybody has an expiry date. We don't know what that is, and if you think you want to do something, what are you waiting for?
Yep.
Especially if it's been telling you over and over and over again, and it's, you need to do that. And I think the biggest thing actually is realizing and taking responsibility for the fact that I am in control. So when somebody says something and it hurts my feelings, they didn't necessarily say it to hurt my feelings. I've chosen to take it in a way that hurts my feelings. And I can choose to also just push it back. Even if it was to hurt my feelings, I can choose to say, I don't want that, and let it go. I'm in control of how I feel, of what I do, and how my life is. Even when life is throwing lemons at you, you still have a choice of how you look at what's going on, and realizing that, sitting there and going, oh, it's because this happened or this or this, or looking for a reason why I'm not getting where I'm going. It's really, at the end of the day, it all is down to us, because as individuals, because even if we can't get exactly what we want, like say, but if it's within reach, if you make baby steps towards it, you'll get there.
I really appreciate what you shared just then about the choosing to see things differently And we know that when we're in a time of change, there are three things that come into play. And one is how we feel about it, one is how we think about it, and one is what we do about it, the action taking. And I can hear in what you're sharing, those things are starting to line up for you really clearly. And, getting on a stage and on a catwalk is one thing, but getting on a stage and reading your very personal story is something else. And I wonder if you could share what inspired you to start speaking publicly at events like this.
I think it was at first because I had been to one of the events before. I think it was more cathartic. Like, here is a place where I'm not going to be judged. People almost don't know who I am. The video and the audio only goes to the members that are paid up members. That's, this is a safe space to be able to just, share however I'm feeling. And it's almost like letting it go. So the first time I did it, that's what it was. But each time it's also, I put things off, and I've considered writing lots of things about how I feel about life. And until I have a real thing to do it, I don't actually do it. So these are ways that I've picked up as anything's come along. It's like, okay, that resonates with me. What could I write about that? So it's a way of just, I don't know, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And it's like jumping off a cliff into deep water. Once you've committed, you're doing it. Yeah. And I think at first it was for me, and a bit like the modelling and even Harlow, I realised how much it also means to others.
So it struck me as well, in the way that you talk, that you're coming out with some really powerful messages. How intentional is that?
Not at all. I actually think that maybe it is a bit both, but I think it's me realising it as I speak to people, that's what those things mean. Because without going too much in it, but I think that for a lot of my life, I believed that what I had to say wasn't important. And that might sound ridiculous considering that even during the 13 years of Harlow, when I was getting told constantly that it was important, it's like almost like it's like the light bulb's going off in my head as I'm saying something out loud. But at the same time, when I do write a story or share a story, I do look back on things that have also had the aha moment. So I think there's a mix of both.
Yeah. And I'm really curious, because throwing your hat in the ring to get up on a stage is a big thing. Getting a bikini on, into your bikini on Instagram is a big thing, starting Harlow. Have you always been this person that has, stepped up and stepped forward in the way that you've been describing today?
Yes, probably. Yes. I've always taken risks. I've ridden the roller skates down the hill. And it's like, I'm just going to do this right now. Whatever happens, happens. And yeah, that was from when I was 7. I'd roller skate down hills that I knew were going way too fast, but didn't even think about things like that. Before social media, thankfully, I did the Spencer tunic thing where we all got into Melbourne naked and had that photo taken. But thankfully there was no Facebook and things at that stage. So, it's like a lot of the time it's more, and where I can be semi-anonymous, which is what I felt like Generation Women was. It wasn't like not anonymous, but it wasn't like, this, it's all about me, because you're one of 6 women that are sharing stories, So, but and also with the Spencer tunic thing, I was one of 5,000 people or something like that. So I don't know. I just feel like I need that bit of fear to actually do things. There's something, I'm wired that way.
The word that you repeat in your letter and that really stayed with me is the unapologetic. Take me into that word, and what does that mean for you?
For me, that means being me, being what I believe in. And I'm still finding Kerry. But it's like in different parts of your life, times of your life you become different people. And I feel like, you know, Harlow was a big thing to say goodbye to, and I don't feel like I've actually said goodbye to it fully yet and gone through the 100% grieving process and then let it go. I think it's still just all sitting under here. And so I think it's like I'm Kerry during that, but now it's like without Harlow, who am I? Because we worked so hard and so many hours in that business, we had some fun, don't get me wrong, but we kept doing the things that we knew we used to do, and realizing now afterwards was like, do I go to a gallery because I enjoy it, or is it a thing that I always did? I gave myself some grace to have some time sort of slower. It would be things like going to one thing first. Did I like that? And not putting any expectation on it, and trying something that I've always done before, or going to a movie. Like, do I go to those movies just to fill time? And trying to ask myself those things, and then saying no if I don't, to myself or to others, and saying yes if it is something that I want to do. So because I think we do a lot of things I do, is through habit, because we've just been doing them.
I'm really curious about it's kind of this editing process of, you know, stopping doing some things and starting other things. And what's helped you get clear about that and to navigate this sort of transition, this transformation into Kerry post Harlow? I mean, you're still in the middle of it, you said, but I wonder what helps you through that process.
I think listening to myself as I do things, but I still have to shake off fully what can be seen as failure because I closed a business. Rather than, if we're thinking black and white, rather than look how much good we did at the time. And yes, it may not be here anymore, but it doesn't mean it was a failure, you know. And so because on myself, a bit like being in control of your feelings, nobody told me that I didn't have anything to say in regards to fashion. Nobody told me I didn't know what I was doing, but I told myself. I actually did a TAFE course. Here's me sharing something that I probably shouldn't. Last year, so that I could teach, and I have not yet approached one TAFE because I've been afraid if I don't do it, nobody can tell me no.
It sounds like you're yet to say yes to that opportunity.
And I know that I'd love it, and I don't know what's stopping me. I keep procrastinating occasionally. That's what I call it. Where I do the thing that, you know, the thing that really would change everything, or, you know, would make a big movement, a big shift, right? I don't sit in there because there's a lot of uncomfortableness in there. I think going back from how can I teach when my business didn't survive? I think it's the thinking of how I'll be judged. And I know nobody's going to do this because I had lots of learnings that I can share. And when I'm consulting, I don't have that problem, but I don't know, and I need to do it. And it's been written in my to-do list for 12 months now, but it will happen.
I have no doubt about that, Kerry. I think that pain also brings with it incredible wisdom that I'm sure you'll carry with you for the rest of your life and bring into all of your ventures going forward, whether it's teaching or supporting other businesses. So for women listening today, what would you like her to take away from your story?
Probably two things. It's never too late to try something, and to listen to your gut or your internal voice. If you keep thinking about something, say yes. If you go down that path and it doesn't work out, you can then let it go. It's no longer going around in your head. So it still gives you freedom. If it ends up being the thing that you want to continue doing for the next however much time, great. But not everything needs to be what you're doing forever. You know, try things, find out what you like. You know, don't be afraid to try things and decide that you don't like them. And I think that, you know, especially people of our generation, it's a bit like when you had a career, like, oh, don't go changing jobs, you know. But now portfolio careers are a thing. And we all know that if we can find something within what we do for a living, right? And it doesn't have to mean you love everything. Because trust me, there's a lot of things I didn't love about running a fashion business. But you always do better and you're always happier because you can find the reason you're doing it.
Yes, absolutely. So as we finish, I've got 2 more questions, and the next one is to ask, what's next for you in your flourishing life?
For me, it's about finding financial stability, because right now I'd have to say that I'm not feeling that at the minute. I've got a couple of good retainer clients, which is great. So I still do have a retail job that I can do 1 or 2 days a week because I know I get paid for that, and that makes me feel more comfortable. So me, it's about finding ways to earn a living, sharing and making a difference. I was trying to do all the things, right, help everybody. But in the last 2 months, I've realized that part about being able to help the woman that I was helping before and shift somebody's ideas about what is possible, that's priceless. And then my other idea is just being able to continue to use the 25 plus years experience that I've gotten in fashion and share that, because I believe that the way to make businesses and the world better is to have intergenerational conversations and mix all of our experiences together, and that will make for a better world.
Here, I say. So, Kerry, if there's one thing you could change about how society sees women over 50, what would it be?
You know, I feel a bit weird saying this in a way. It's like, I'd actually rather just say worthy. Actually, worthy is good, because I do feel like I have to, and again, I'm going to be into both things. I feel like I'm not invisible because I won't allow myself to be invisible because I push through it. However, I can feel invisible when I walk into a shop and people don't speak to us. Or in a room with intergenerational people that often people won't ask you your opinion, but we don't have an expiry date and we all have a story to share. Mm-hmm. And we're worthy until the day we don't take a breath.
A few minutes ago, you mentioned the word possibility and painting a picture of, possibilities. And that's what this podcast is all about. And so I'm really grateful that you agreed to join me today in this conversation and also share your letter again and really share some of your wisdom from your experiences. And I really appreciate the big message that you have as well about being unapologetically you and the sense of self-worth that sits under that. So, Kerry, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. And as I said previously, it's as much for me as it is for everybody else. But if we can all share our stories, we all feel less alone.
Thanks for listening to Flourish After 50. If today's conversation resonated and you're ready to take the next step, you can work with me one-on-one as your coach, join my 6-week Life on Your Terms program, or be part of a monthly discussion group where we get deeper into some of the topics on this podcast, the Flourish After 50 Circle. You'll find the details and links at flourishavter50.com.au or in the show notes. I'd also love your support. Follow the show on your favourite podcast app, share this episode with a friend, and leave a review. It helps more women discover Flourish After 50 and start their own journey towards what's next. Thank you for listening and for giving yourself the space to be curious about all the possibilities that lie ahead for you. This episode was recorded on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to elders past and present.